This is Keep Up. I'm your host, Cynthia Dill. It's Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. I'm in my Cape Elizabeth studio. It's good to be back. Maybe you heard that the Supreme Court has taken the muzzle off Maine State Representative Laurel Libby, and she now gets to vote. And what I mean by that is, in case you haven't been following along, here in Maine, we've had quite a situation on our hands. In my last video, I shared with you that I'd had the pleasure of an interview with Laurel Libby, and that's now online. You should check it out. But at that time, she was punished in the Maine House of Representatives and unable to vote or speak because she had the audacity to repost an already published truthful picture of a first place pole vaulter in a girls' competition who had previously placed in fourth place as a boy the year prior. And for doing that, for reposting something that was truthful and public, she was censured by the Maine House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House called her to the well of the House and said if she didn't apologize, she would lose her rights to vote or speak, and she refused to apologize. And so the clerk of the House, from that point on, has been counting her votes with a Z, in other words, not counting her votes. So the people in her district, the 9,000 or so Maine citizens who elected her to represent them in the House of Representatives, have been without a voice. So she took her case to court, and she lost the first two rounds, but brought it up to the Supreme Court. And in a 7-2 decision yesterday, the Supreme Court granted an injunction ordering the Maine Clerk of the House and the Speaker of the House to enable Representative Laurel Libby to speak. And I couldn't be happier. I'm so glad, because it was such an injustice, not only for women, but for anyone who supports the Constitution and free speech. It's a big win. It's a very big win. And you can't get an injunction unless you can show that you have a likelihood to win on the merits of the case. The underlying merits of the case will still be litigated. But she got the injunction, so while the case is unfolding, the House can't prevent her from voting. And it's really important because right now in Maine, we're on the cusp of deciding whether or not we're going to continue with this ridiculous policy that allows boys to compete against girls in high school sports. In fact, the Judiciary Committee just yesterday also voted in the deadlocked vote, is tie at the committee level, to pass what some Republicans are hoping to do, which is unravel these laws that we have that allow for boys to play on girls' sports. The committee vote was 6-6, and now it's heading out to the House, where there'll be a vote on the floor, and Laurel Libby is one of 151 members. It's divided between Democrats and Republicans with a 3-member difference between the two parties. And so, her vote could make or break whether or not this policy is going to continue. So, hurrah, Supreme Court. I'm glad. And, and a lot of people are still upset because they think that what she did was so awful, that she doxed a minor, which I just completely disagree with, because she didn't dox a minor, because what she did, as I said, was repost a picture that was truthful, that had already been published. And people repost pictures of minors all the time, especially in this gender war that we're having here in Maine. We've got activists who bust in trans kids, so-called. I don't believe there's such a thing as a trans kid, to tell you the truth, but that's what they're described as, because that's the information that was given to them by the adults, that somehow this radical notion that a child could be born and then discover when they're, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years old, that they've been born in the wrong body. I'm a mother of 2 children. I just don't believe for a second that a child would have that idea without an adult suggesting it. And so I reject this notion that there are such things as trans kids. But even if there are kids who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, I don't believe that somehow makes it fair for boys to play on girls' sports. And in this particular case, this boy, as I said, he came in like 4th or 5th as a junior in pole vaulting. And then as a senior, he just declared that he identified as a girl. You don't need any medical documentation. You don't need like a certificate like they do in England. You just declare it. And the high school has to just accept the high school. Now, the laws are so screwed up in Maine that parents don't have any say, really. Kids can just tell the school what they want to be called. They can tell the school what their gender is, and the parents can't even know in many instances. So we're in a in a big battle, and we just scored a major victory at the Supreme Court, and I'm hoping we might we might win in the legislature, but I kind of doubt it. But if the Democrats lose, which they probably won't, there might be repercussion, but going into the next election, this is going to be a deciding issue. This is going to be a deciding issue. And there's a lot of people who feel outraged because Laurel Libby allegedly doxed this minor. But really, what she did was bring to bear the truth of what's happening in this state. And the truth is, we have laws that are so out of touch with the mainstream, just completely out of touch with the medical science. European countries, Finland, Sweden, the United Kingdom, they're all backpedaling. Okay, the doctors who are finally getting their hands around this issue are saying, "Whoa, the science is not clear." I mean, think about it. Do you really think a teenage girl who's having an identity crisis is going to feel better if her breasts are amputated? I don't think so. Do you really think these kids who are struggling, finding their way, are going to be somehow made more healthy by taking puberty blockers? It just makes no sense. But we in Maine, parents have no rights. We can't speak up because of the laws that the Democrats impose. And as I've said on earlier shows, I am no longer a Democrat because of this issue. And I hope that the Democrats lose in the next legislature. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court has issued an injunction to enable Laurel Libby to speak and to vote. And I hope that the Maine legislature follows suit and does the right thing by just simply let's come back to normal. Let's come back to a time when there's girls and boys sports. And the reason why that makes a difference is because, let's face it, there are anatomical differences between boys and girls. In high school, boys are stronger, faster, have more bulk, have more weight, and they're very competitive. And so if you think that there are not boys who are going to cheat by saying that they're identifying as a girl when all they have to do is say that they're identifying as a girl and win a state championship and get a scholarship and be in the headlines. It So big news in Maine. I mean, big news in Maine. And, the governor now is going to be put in a very precarious position because it's likely that the Democrats will, by an inch, defeat the bills that are pending to disallow boys to participate in girls' sports. The Democrats are going to, by an inch, defeat the bills to try to get rid of this gender identity that's in our Maine Human Rights Act that set the foundation for all this nonsense. The law is going to then go to the governor, and she can either sign it, she can veto it, or she can not sign it. And so we'll see what she's going to do because she has her sights right on a national race. Is she going to run against Susan Collins? Is she going to run against Susan Collins on the platform that boys are girls? I doubt it. The polls are overwhelmingly showing that majority of Americans and a majority of Mainers do not believe that boys should be playing on girls' sports teams. And the majority of Americans do not want the legislature to allow these kinds of policies that take parents out of the equation, that empower employees in school districts. We have evidence here in Maine that a provisionally licensed social worker who had been on the job for a year or so secretly gave a chest binder to a young girl, sent her home with it. We have evidence that in another school district, uh, you know, the clinic in the school gave prescription medication to a student without the parent's knowledge. Parents are not allowed to even have access to some of the records regarding their children, and people are standing up. We've had it. It's nonsense. It's not fair. And and so that, that's the latest update here in Maine. Stay tuned. There's going to be a vote in the House shortly on these gender bills. And I think what's really just, it's just so disheartening for me is so many of these organizations that are supposedly pro women, like the National Organization for Women Now, the lawyers down in Washington supposedly representing women's rights, Planned Parenthood, Equality Maine, all these organizations that tout that they are for civil rights are actively discriminating against women, taking this position that somehow men can be women. But, you know, the groundswell of rage is manifesting itself, and not only feminists are coming forward, not only former Democrats like myself saying, "Whoa, time out." Time out. This is blatant discrimination against women, and it's just, it's unacceptable that parents don't have a say. I mean, if you are a parent and you have a child who's going through the school system, you're scared to death that, God forbid, their vulnerable and impressionable minds are gonna be influenced by people in schools with this nonsense that somehow they were born in the wrong body. That transgenderism is a diagnosis, right? Gender dysphoria. It's in the DSM-5. It's when you have this psychosis that you believe that your body is somehow disconnected from your inner self. Well, you know, that's that's a psychiatric illness. That's not like same-sex marriage. That's not like being gay where you fall in love with someone else who's the same sex. And so this attempt to build a coalition, the Alphabet Club, to build a coalition that includes gay people with trans people, with other people who have these disorders is, uh, I think it's gonna be defeated, and I hope so, because I have so many people who I love dearly who are in same-sex relationships that I support fully. And if you're an adult and you're a guy and you wanna dress up as a woman, all the power to you. And you have your own insurance and you wanna have cosmetic surgery, go for it. But to have policies in schools that not only encourage it, but have active recruitment of these kids. It's almost as if there's a campaign on the part of Democrats to enlist kids to be trans kids, to somehow support their psychology, to somehow make them feel better. It's crazy, and so many of the adults in Maine who are really the torchbearers for this issue, who are, telling everyone who's against, the trans ideology, they don't have kids. And the parents are just besides themselves and showing up at school board meetings, showing up in town council meetings, and I hope they show up at the next election and vote these gender ideologues out, including our very own representatives here in my lovely town of Cape Elizabeth, my senator, Ann Carney, who I respect. We graduated from law school at the same time. We were admitted to the bar at the same time. She's a wonderful person. She grew up, that she has a beautiful family, but she's a state senator. She's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and she is the face of this effort to not only allow the civil rights of trans kids, which I fully support, but to really discriminate against women and girls. It's just mind-boggling to me that the progressives now, the feminists, advocate for policies that don't allow women and girls to be defined on the basis of biological sex. They're pressing the Equal Rights Amendment. They're pressing these laws to just make it so blurry that any man can say that they're a woman and enter a shelter, enter a prison, enter a bathroom, enter a locker room in the name of women's rights? No. I mean, feminism has really taken it's just been an unbelievable spectrum. There was a time when I was younger when feminism was really about man-hating, and that's why people rejected it because it was too radical. Like, I have been married to my husband for 35 years. We have 2 beautiful children. I One of them's a boy, one of them's a girl, both of my children in love with beautiful women, and I'm fully supportive of that. I've never hated men, though. I love my father, I love my grandfather. So feminism for a while was a little bit too rough on the edges because it was anti-man. Well, now it's gone like 300 no, 180 degrees, I guess. Now feminism somehow has been distorted, has been ruined, uh, to somehow suggest that feminism means that women have to include men in the name of inclusivity. It's crazy that somehow feminism now means that women, uh, include men, and I guess I'm old-fashioned, but, you know, the definition of a woman is an adult human female, and that's not to say that there are not trans women. Of course, there are trans women. Trans women are trans women. Men who have gender dysphoria, who want to express themselves as women. I'm all for them. I hope the best for them, and I fully believe that laws should protect them, that their civil rights should be protected. But that's a far cry from saying that men are women. And so to Stephen King, who says, "Oh, trans women are women." Well, you're a horror writer, and that's a horror story. So my money's on J.K. Rowling. My money is on the women. I hope that the Maine Legislature does the right thing, but I kinda doubt it will. But the votes on this issue, the votes cast on whether, you know, trans girls are girls, this false narrative, this lie that trans women are women, the Democrats are gonna cast their votes, and then there's gonna be an election. And I hope that the Democrats lose because what we need is we need lawmakers who are going to not only talk the talk about protecting women, but actually do what we need to do, which is get back to a law that just separates men and women on the basis of biological sex, because that is the truth. And that's what's needed to protect women and girls, not only in Maine, but in the United States. So, Donald Trump, you can hate him, and you can have Trump derangement syndrome and think that everything he touches turns to dust as opposed to what he thinks, which is everything that he touches turns to gold. But when it comes to the issue of women and girls, Donald Trump's on the right side of the issue. And in the state of Maine, the Republicans are on the right side of the issue. And so we'll see whether Janet Mills is on the right side of the issue when the law that probably will pass, that she has the opportunity to make a change in Maine, and we'll see if she does it. And in the next election, where the difference between Republicans and Democrats right now in the legislature is like 3 or 4 seats, and about 60 votes have separated the last election between a Republican majority and a Democratic majority. I think this issue is gonna be the outcome. And you can, if you have a belief about Laurel Libby's acts, that they were reprehensible and that she deserves, punishment for reposting what was truthful and readily available online of a public event, you're entitled to that belief. You can express yourself about it. If you live in her district, you can vote her out. But for the Maine legislature to censure her, take away her voice, take away her vote, and to beat the drum that somehow they're righteous is nonsense. And I hope we're on the cusp of doing the right thing and getting back to, common sense and fairness and dignity for women and girls in the state of Maine. I hope so. And until next time, this is Cynthia Dill. Take care.